We actually reduced so that there was an impact on the high school in terms of number of sections that we could offer and courses that we could offer. So it had a system-wide, affected the electives at the high school.
So it would also increase the number of electives available.
Yes.
So that's a system-wide
That's a
restoration.
system-wide
item.
restoration. Similarly, 3.3 health teachers, PE, physical education. It would restore physical education twice a week in the elementary school and twice a week in the middle school. Right now, it's once a week. And would also restore the elective program at high school.
So those two restorations could have a positive impact on class sizes at high school.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Because we're putting the electives back in
Correct.
place.
Right. The next one, which says 4.0 tech library, media teacher, and the paraprofessionals, it would restore the middle school librarian. It would restore the teaching position that provides technology support. We had one for secondary, one for elementary, over 800 computers. We're down to one. So to restore that, it would restore a library paraprofessional in the elementary. We cut one of the three. So we're shutting down our elementary libraries twice a week. And it would restore a computer lab para in the same way. We had one in the school, now we have two for the free schools. So basically our labs are shut twice a week at the elementary level. So that's the 4.0. I had to think for a minute here. On the 2.5, instructional support, that is the equivalent of restoring the lost department head time. We had to, that's why I was
Okay.
mentally going through instructional
Yeah.
support. We cut a sum of money out of several areas. The mentor program, which is required by law, professional development, and we took all of our department heads, English, math, science. These are teachers who get one period off to support the English department head, to support the teachers at the high school. They are now teaching at 100%. We are funding their stipend, but we're providing no time. So it's just an FTE. If we were to restore, maybe not in the same way, but if we were to restore the department head time, you take their department head time is equivalent to 0.2, each department head is 0.2, multiply that all out by the number of department heads at the middle school and the high school and music and art, it would be the equivalent of 2.5 teaching positions. So right now, by putting those department heads to full-time status, it's, even with that, we've added teaching sections primarily at the high school, you see. And so if we took them out of the teaching positions and restored, we'd have even a greater impact on class size. So even with putting them into the mix of scheduling them for full classes, we still have high class sizes. So if we don't restore it, it's a huge problem. So that's what that is. I apologize for having to think of
So-
it as powers or
So
something.
it seems pretty clear that a consensus is, that some level of restoration is supported across the table.
Well-
Not necessarily bringing back all of the same exact positions, but restoring the budget to the level that you're suggesting.
Again, because we made some very difficult decisions in June, we're at a point now that, as we look forward, we have not solved these other issues of class size, or not having health in the middle school, a number of other issues, or providing literacy support, or continued support in special education, I may come back and make a recommendation that I would pick from that third column
Right.
and not simply restore some of the things that we cut. And I know that's very, very hard to hear, because, yes, I agree, as I get out in the community and as we talk about the impacts this year, I'm hearing the same thing. We don't like the Wednesday afternoon, and yes, it's more than just inconvenience with, we're hearing from the principals, you've heard this, that children are being stressed in the elementary school with their schedule. There is no break in that day. You're not providing the music, you're not providing the art, you're not providing the physical education, and that is having an impact. Is it measurable? Are we evaluating every student and, on a day-to-day basis and saying, well, how are you feeling today? It's not like that. It shows up in insidious ways. And eventually, people become complacent that this is how we run schools. This is what education is all about.
You lower the standards.
You lower the standards.
And I do think your point is well taken, because just addressing the special education issue, if you're unable to hire those inclusion teachers, we're gonna end up incurring a lot more costs to send kids out of the district, and it's a double whammy. And that's one of the areas that I'm concerned about, seeing our costs of special ed continuing to increase, and if we don't bring in inclusion teachers, then I think we suffer consequences of that. Ms. Davis?
I had a rather radical suggestion made to me as a cost saver.
You sure this was made to you, you're thinking of yourself?
I'm not thinking of myself.
All right.
Has the administrative council looked at the impact of closing one of the elementary schools, like closing the little school?
Yep.
Say.
Well, that's why I provided a list of some of the areas, and I'm not saying that exact plan, but we are looking, we have to look.
Yeah.
They have to look, whether it's in response to the budget problems that we face right now. I don't believe that we can continue to do this on a year-by-year basis. We have to think ahead down the road, and we are going to be facing a series of very difficult choices.
But regardless of whatever solution you come up with, even a radical solution, thinking ahead down the road doesn't stop the problem.
Right,
The problem
because- exactly.
continues, because
It's
no matter what
funding,
the solution
it's a
is,
systematic
the next
funding
year,
problem.
you're gonna find
Right.
a systematic, exactly,
It's a funding.
funding problem
Right.
that's gonna prevent you from carrying forward whatever the radical solution was.
Well,
I
So it's-
want to follow up immediately on what your suggestion is, and I don't want anyone leaving this room feeling that we're closing the little school, please. Well, especially.
Well, it's not a suggestion, I'm not suggesting that you do this, I'm just saying, this is a positive, has
Because
this
I came here with the
possibility.
reopening of the little schools, so I don't.
Right, you wanna leave?
However,
That's not a little school.
Right.
Some of the kinds, it's just to put out on the table the kind of thinking that we're looking at. That is the administrative team, is looking at reorganizing the grade level configuration.
So that you would have, say, K through 2 in one school and.
That is one model that we're
alternative
looking
in
at.
another.
Correct. We're trying to evaluate this first from an educational standpoint, what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages on any one of these. And then looking at, in some cases, there may be a cost savings, cost efficiencies, and it may be an easier way or a more efficient way of delivering services. And then there may be a cost. And there's a financial cost associated with this, and there may also be a social cost. So for example, if we take just the idea of clustering our early childhood grades in one school, the point of that is that you have teachers all focused on, say, kindergarten and preschool. There's a lot of intervention that goes on there with special education. particularly in pre-K, because the point of that is to create an integrated preschool model, to be able to deliver those services more efficiently. It's from a transportation standpoint. Well, from a transportation standpoint, right now, a lot of that is done by vans, and they're staggered. There's nothing to say that a particular preschool class all the preschool classes need to start at the same time. But from starting with kindergarten, now you're looking at town-wide pickup of students and delivery, and so we're trying to look at other models of, does the entire school need to start at the same time, or, can there be staggered, and so forth. So I want the committee to know that the administrative staff is going through all of these with, not in the position of recommending any one of them, but we feel that we do have to evaluate that. And then sometime soon, we need to come forward and say, here's what we're recommending.
The problem I have with that is, unless there's a significant educational benefit, and/or a significant cost savings, and more and than or on the two of them, then we shouldn't be looking at all of these radical type of solutions. I mean, we have to know either there's gonna be a significant, again, educational benefit or a significant cost savings. I mean,
My feeling
why else
is
are we doing it?
We're doing it, obviously, we try to make decisions that are, number one, that are educationally sound. That's
Right.
number one. And the decisions that we made last summer, and that I anticipate we'll be making based on even a 3% budget, the decisions that that we will need to make this year, which I believe will be at the same level or greater, will not be educationally sound. And so we will have multiple years of making
Then we're not-
educationally unsound
And
decisions.
we're not solving the problem. If we're gonna be thinking out of the box to that extent, I'd rather think out of the box about finding a way to improve our fiscal situation, if we're going to that extreme.
I can certainly understand why you would explore those options so that we can answer the community. If we're gonna go and ask them for $1, $2, or $3 million, we have to be able to answer that question. But I'd have a hard time support grade reorganization in our 3 elementary buildings. We just went through an elementary building project for the last 10 years, and all of those specs were centered around community-based schools, down to the point where we made a decision on how many preschool and kindergartens would go into those buildings, and they require a certain square footage. So how can you then look at either one of the 3 elementary buildings and put all kindergarten classes in there when they're designed for 3 or 4 kindergartens at the 1,500 square foot required space? You can't take a first, second, third, fourth, or fifth grade classroom and turn them into a preschool or kindergarten classroom. They're not large enough by state code. We just went through these very expensive programs designed for pre to grade 5.
I agree with that, and again, the dilemma that I feel that we're facing is the difficult choice of, yes, we're obviously pursuing additional revenue, but I'm not convinced that it will be at the level that will be necessary to, and let me give you a couple of other examples, and again, please, I hesitated by even putting some of this out here for public discussion.
I think you have to, but just before you do that, I agree with Jerry, because I've had this discussion with Dr. Troughton. If they're not, these are being driven by budget constraints and realities, not the educational aspect. And I know you're not gonna do something that's going to radically harm, how we educate our kids, but at the same time.
No, but if it's gonna radically disrupt, and we're gonna find ourselves in the
Exactly,
same
well, no,
fiscal
exactly,
situation,
it's
what's
not
the
being driven,
benefit?
right, to me, I don't see it being driven by educational benefits, most
I
of these
don't
things.
see how you could do it.
So, but, I mean, Mr. Jeremy, are you opposed to laying some of these out on the table, or?
Oh, let's hear 'em.
I want them on the table, but I don't want them on the table until people have had